Kemenangan now, isn't he? They get alongside him when he can. He pushes. Look at that. Rossi takes the lead up the inside of Casey Stoner. They both rode 125s. They both rode 250s. They're now doing it on MotoGP. Stoner shouldn't be too perturbed because he knows that he's got extra pace. But Rossi is absolutely flying. We saw it in qualifying. He's now doing it in the race. This is a superb performance by the extra speed in his locker. Thank you, Valentino. You've done all the hard work. I just retake the lead. Rossi will try and rough him again, though.
Look at him. He's going to go through on the brakes. Casey Stoner gets a much tighter line. Now you see, that's the warning for Valentino Rossi. That Ducati's not too shabby on the braking either. That's something to say. Valentino Rossi very stable on that Yamaha, of course, but very, very good from Casey Stoner there. Kept his wits about him, did the business down the back straight, gets past him, does well on the braking as well. Lets Valentino, says, go on, brake late. If you want to brake late, I'll just turn inside you. And that's what he's done. Look at Hopkins. He's broken Melandri behind him. Hopkins is on a charge now, and Hopkins is only 0.3 of a second behind Valentino Rossi.
Oh, wouldn't that be great if Hopkins gets up with Rossi and Stoner? What an interesting race this is turning out to be, because Stoner obviously has that.
A good example of how once again blocking the sort of line that Valentino Rossi wants. Valentino Rossi says, doesn't do enough for me. You have to do better than that. Valentino Rossi reclaims the lead with 11.5 laps remaining in the Grand Prix of China. Through the right, that brings them onto this back straight, the 1.202 kilometre straight that we have here. And the Yamaha fans are enjoying this one. They go down that straight. What can the Ducati do this time?
It's going to go racing past him, I can assure you. But Rossi now takes a very different line. He's gone very up the inside. Rossi hangs on there, does he? Not quite, but that wasn't so bad. And while all that's going on, John Hopkins is going to join in the fun soon. And it'd be quite interesting to Stoner running a little bit wide. No, he doesn't. If Hopkins...
It would have been a brilliant start to the season for Hopkins. Just no one expected too much from Suzuki. They had a great pre-season, and lots of people were saying lots of things, but Suzuki were very cautious about what could happen. Now you can see that gap between Hopkins and Valentino Rossi is dropping, but just by a few tenths every single lap. Again, he's eked out double apex left-hander. Oh, Casey Stoner gets in all sorts of trouble coming out of there, but he manages to hold on to first position, manages to get it. Look at him drift across the track. Superb control from Casey Stoner. Now, we have read a lot in the Italian press complaining that Stoner's got the best bike. Fantastic bike, but someone's got to ride it, and Casey Stoner's riding it as this front three bunch up. And, well, we've got a superb race on our hands. When they cross the line now, there'll be 8 laps remaining.
Rossi didn't let him get away so far. That
with 51. That Ducati looks good under brakes. Looks very, very stable indeed. That rear end, Casey Stoner can just let it step out and then brings it back into line and hooks it up perfectly into that left-right combination.
Some can watch, others can't. Valentino Rossi on the Yamaha in second place, and massive support for him here, but this is where it really matters, and than he probably is it Constantina's up, but he is close. Here he goes, Rossi, up the inside of Stoner. Whoa, what a manoeuvre!
No, he's gone wide, gone very, very wide indeed. Onto the AstroTurf on the outside of this track. That was such a risky manoeuvre from Valentino Rossi, and he's paid the price for it. He runs it wide, 2.6 seconds now the gap between Stoner and Rossi, 1.2 the gap between Hopper and Stoner.
That was the mark of a desperate rider.
It was the mark of a desperate man, wasn't he? He's going to try everything. Danny
Rossi's tucked in behind John Hopkins, and I'm going to think we're going to see another braking manoeuvre here from Valentino Rossi. Rossi gets out of the slipstream, so he can do that with the Suzuki because it doesn't have that much power on Valentino Rossi. But Hopkins himself is a very late breaker and a very brave breaker. He gets a little bit wide though that time. I think having Valentino Rossi in his sights just maybe upset his rhythm slightly. And Rossi to reclaim second position from John Hopkins. At the moment, the podium
season and open up a 15-point lead in the World Championship. Safely through turn 14. 15 coming up. He has a cheeky look behind him. You're okay, Casey. Rossi's in sight, but not close enough. Into the last turn. The checkered flag beckons. Casey Stoner wins the Grand Prix of China. He increases his lead in the World Championship. What a ride by Valentino Rossi, and John Hopkins on the podium.
Brilliant stuff from John Hopkins, but even better from Casey Stoner, who wins his 3rd race of the season. Danny Pedrosa, his old adversary in the 250s.
Regardless of his nationality, he's really gone on with this year. The maturity that Gova said, we all know that. We've been talking about that in previous weeks. It's a new kid on the block this year.
I imagine Livio Supo will be up there receiving the Manufacturers Award for the Australian National Anthem.